Kia ora e te iwi, and welcome back to The Chew,
The Chew,
where we get to chew the fat off random kaupapa. Anei ahau ko taika, maua kokori.
Kia ora.
Streaming at you through the World Wide Web. And today, wānau, we'll be talking about top 3 tips for absolute beginners for Te Reo Māori.
Good topic, bro. Good topic.
So it's been a while since we did our last podcast. We have been off air a wee while for pretty obvious reasons, Hika?
Yeah. Probably a reason that you can all guess.
Mm-hmm.
Not related at all to each other, but we both got COVID.
Aye.
Yeah.
So my family were stung pretty hard with COVID-19, and then as the infection delays through people, that isolation period just takes a little bit longer.
Yep. And yeah, same happened with me. I got COVID for a little bit there, and then the wife Caroline got it as well. So we're fully recovered. Oh, Caroline's got a little bit of extra symptoms still hanging in there, but I'm feeling okay. How about you, bro?
Yeah, kei te pai. Got a little bit of a lingering cough, but now it's all good. I pretty much use it so Sheena can cook me breakfast and dinner and stuff. So
nice. Same.
But otherwise symptom free.
Yeah, cool.
But it's great to be back, and hopefully from here on in, we don't get too much disturbances, and we can start, producing a few more episodes. So we've got a few people that were keen to get lined up. So watch the space, reconnect, subscribe, like, etc. And we'll be back at you full force.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We caught a good wave at the start. It was a shame that COVID sort of put a stop on things, but yeah, we're keen to get back into it.
Anyway, bring it back to our kaupapa 3 top tips for absolute beginners on their Te Reo Māori journey. So, Ehika, kick us off with one of your top 3 tips.
One of my top 3 tips. So my first tip is to learn kupu hou now, or new words. So I didn't think this was such a focus when I was learning. I thought, you don't need to learn the words, just learn the sentence patterns and you can learn the words later. I think I was wrong with that. I really think it would have been a better idea for me to learn the words. It's really important to have a good group of words to be able to use. So yeah, that's my first tip. Learn new words daily, weekly, monthly, whatever your own schedule is. Learn new words.
Yeah, and probably to touch on that, I found the same tip pretty useful too. I should have done the same thing, was really load up on a lot of those action words or verbs, because they're usually the hints when you're trying to structure those sentences together to really help you understand what people are actually saying, even at we're not at the advanced end by no means.
No.
But, a lot of the hints I find are usually in those verbs and pronouns.
Yeah. And so what's your first tip, bro?
Cool. My first tip is find the keywords you use every day or quite regularly and try and master them. So, probably quite closely related to what you're saying. And, not really worry about those words that you won't use as or less frequently.
Yeah.
And an example of that is, every day you might use the word door or child, pepi, tamariki, kai, all those sorts of things. So
which translates to what, bro?
Tamariki, children, kai, one of my favorite words, food. Pepi, baby. And not necessarily focused or expend too much energy on trying to learn words that you won't use, that often, such as like hedgehog or chimney. And hedgehog came from when I was actually doing my class, and in our kupu hou, we had the word hedgehog, and I was like, I've only used hedgehog like once or twice in the last year in English. So, if I've only got a small amount of, space in my brain to take in kupu hou, why would I waste it on a word like hedgehog or chimney? So I was like, look, I won't focus too much energy on learning hedgehog or chimney, but, these other really important words like your pronouns, nouns and verbs and all of those sorts of words, I would use most of my time learning those.
Yeah, good tip. Good tip, bro, because that's a big problem. Well, not a problem, but that's what you come across. People feed you new words, and then you realise you don't even say those words. Like, why would I bother with that word? Yeah. But,
especially right at the start when you're learning to.
Yeah. So that's and a good example of that down here, bro, is all the wintry type words, right? So everyone down here who learns Māori, they all know the Māori word for snow, because it snows all the time down here. People go skiing. Like, when you talk to beginners, they all know the Māori word for snow, and they all know the Māori word for ski. Now, back up home on the East Coast, no one knows those words or gives a shit about those words, So, good tip, bro. Yeah, that's a good tip.
So what do you got coming number 2?
My number 2, kind of an obvious one, but it's one that's helped me massively, and it still helps me to this day. Look for online resources to help you, and there's so many of them. See, people don't realise how many resources are out there, especially on Māori TV. And because it's on Māori TV, it's all on demand, so you can just go and look at any of these episodes. All of the episodes. So you can start with Tōku Reo is a beginner TV show that teaches you language patterns, gives you examples of how to use them. Then you move up to programs like Ōpaki, that is all immersive language, but really, really slow and basic. And
we've actually got a Ōpaki star right here, Te Iwi.
Oh,
I think it's episode 60 something. So have a dig around.
Stop it, bro.
You'll be able to find Corey's episode that he was in 2, I think 2 or 3.
We did a week's worth, so I think it was four episodes. Yep. Yeah, and it wasn't my best work, whānau. Just got to remember, if you find it and you watch me, I was an absolute beginner. Okay. So, man, Pānia was talking to me in Māori, and there was stuff I had no idea what she was saying. So I was doing the old... And the funny thing about that TV show, bro, is there's no cuts. There's no cut. There's no director going, cut, let's do it again. Nah, they just kept filming. If you had no idea what you were doing, they just carried on filming, eh? So,
take one only.
Yeah, but I've got to say it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. Pānia Papa is just a beautiful lady, man, and she was, as nice as she looks on TV, she's exactly like that in real life. Real happy, always chatty, always walks around in her slippers singing waiata. It's like, oh, man.
Personifies being a Māori.
Yeah, and just an inspirational person, eh? So, I was just so fortunate to have spent a little bit of time with her. Not that she remembers who I am, but it was a real source of inspiration for me. Yeah, so anyway, there's online resources, whānau. There's so many of them out there. Taringa podcast, there's just lots and lots that can help you on your journey.
Yeah, and I'm not massive on social media myself, but Arrowtown Dad, hashtag Arrowtown Dad over here, Corey. On TikTok, TikTok. I also believe there's quite a lot of TikToks on there that, can help beginners learn as well.
Yeah, lots. There's lots of debate, though. Man, there's heaps of debate on Māori issues on TikTok. It gets a little negative, actually. Like, it gets real Hundy racist sometimes, so just navigate through all that stuff and just go back to all the fun stuff.
Yeah, kia tūpato whānau, be careful.
Yep.
Cool. So my number 2 is probably, slightly different here, which is all about whakamā or shame. And, what I've got down here is, don't feel small because you don't know your deal. And this is mainly speaking to a lot of our Māori people out there, because I know they do find it very, very difficult, especially, a lot of our Māori whānau that were brought through the age where, it was illegal to speak Te Reo Māori, or it was outlawed, should I say, rather than illegal. Just because you don't know your reo, or there are other non-Māori people that know it better than you, don't let that be a barrier to you learning.
That's right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, if you've made the commitment to get out there, and even if it's just learn a couple of words, or if you want to try and be matato or fluent, then, don't let anything stop you in your journey to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Patua te tani whā whakamā. Or smash the monster of shame.
Aye.
So yeah, it's a problem that I think a lot of Māori have in particular. I understand that perception that because you're Māori, there's this natural thing for some Pākehā that you must know how to say some Māori, you must know how to speak some Māori. And so when you get approached and asked if you can speak Māori, having gone through this myself, I kind of, you can't help but feel ashamed when you don't have the language. And some people that becomes a blocker to their learning. For me, it became an inspiration for me to learn, because I sort of, especially down here in the Waipounamu, you got hit up a lot asking if you can speak Māori, because a lot of the migrants in particular, when they see Māori, they'll naturally ask, about our culture, about our language. So yeah, it's a thing. It's quite hard to overcome for some people, eh, bro? Did you ever have a problem with whakamā?
Oh, absolutely. I think we all do at some stage in our life. And, sometimes even for me, it hasn't been so much the reo side, but the tikanga side, where you've been approached to ask about certain aspects of custom and culture, or why do they say that word? And, I've never heard that. And, I don't have the mātauranga to be able to explain that. And having that feel of whakamā, absolutely. But the only way to get around that is use that to fuel your drive to seek out that knowledge, to learn. And I understand it can be very difficult when you've got, family, work, pressures of everyday world. But, like anything, if you really want it, then, you'll have the energy and you'll make the time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my number 2 is, patua te taniwha o te whakamā.
Ooh, rawe. My number 3 is find someone or some people to practice with, and or to learn with. I think it's important to surround yourself with people on a similar journey, especially when you have the same kind of need or want or inspiration to learn te reo. If you're all around the same level, or at least have the same level of interest, it's easier to bounce off each other, it's easier to talk to each other. And I've just found that the family we have down here in Arrowtown, of all places, a massive army of people in Arrowtown that are all learning te reo, and we're all learning around the same levels. Some of us are higher than the others, but we've got a really close group of people who have all learned te reo for the last 6 years, and at various levels. And I know that without them, I could never have gotten this far with where I am now. Even though they'll look at me and go, "Oh yeah, but you're at the top level for all of us." But I don't get there by myself. I needed them to help me along.
It takes a village, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, that's my number one. You've got to have people that can help you, because sometimes when you're not feeling it, you're feeling a bit low, or you're sort of you're losing interest. All it takes is one other person to go, oh, hey, I want to do this thing, or I've got this really good idea, and they'll inspire you back into it again. It'll sort of fire you up and make you remember that, oh, yeah, that's right, I love this too, and oh, well, thanks, I needed that kick up the pants, So, and you're an example of that for me, bro. Between each other, we've sort of been able to bounce off and get better along the way. So,
absolutely, and vice versa too. And I also feel is when you've got other people there on a very similar level learning, and I'd like to do a big mihi to Huhana, kia ora, Susan.
Man, she's awesome. You should have heard her yesterday at the Rumaki session. Wicked.
Myself, Huhana, and Corey, we used to have little lunch dates up at the casino there when we were all going through our Te Reo journey. Corey was the kaiawhina at the time, still also on his journey, and me and Huhana were both students, and we used to ask questions a lot about certain concepts and, how the rerenga or the sentences worked, or Kupu Hou. So it was always really good to bounce those words, those ideas, those concepts of someone else to really embed that learning in the brain, or, give you a bit more context around what you're trying to learn there. So, being able to ask those questions face to face with someone else, or, they not even know their answer, but you can just share those problems with someone else has made a massive difference.
Yeah, good point, eh? Because a lot of the times if we didn't know something, we would wānanga together and come up with sort of with what might be the answer, or someone would go and research.
Yep.
Like Huhana clarified something for me yesterday as well. So just a little thing about Huhana. We're going to probably get her on this podcast at some point. So her name is Susan, but we have named her Huhana because she's part of the Māori team now. Retired older Pākehā lady. The last person you would expect if you saw her on the street to know how to speak Māori. But she is a fantastic, not just speaker of Te Reo, she understands the grammar patterns to the nth degree. And so, that's a little bit about Susan or Huhana, our very good friend. And she went and did some research about a place up here that's people call Moke Lake. And I always thought that was a Māori word that was Moke Lake, because people who know the word moke means to be lonely, or to be to feel sad because of wanting. So, but she said no, moke is actually a term that was given to like mules. And so she found out the actual name for Moke Lake, and I think it was Kawai Mahaka, which is the Ngāi Tahu dialect for Ngā Wai Mahanga, or the twin waters. So there's apparently two lakes up there. I still haven't been up there, bro. There's two lakes there, and that's. So Huhana does all this kind of research for us, eh? And someone asked me if Moke Lake was a Māori name yesterday at our Rumaki session, and I was about to say yes it is, and it should be pronounced Moke, but Huhana jumped in and actually clarified the whole story of that place.
Oh, well, kia ora Huhana for that mātauranga, or that little bit of knowledge, and secondly, Caroline, if you can drag this Māori boy up to Moke Lake, it'll be much appreciated. It's only 15 minutes down the road.
I know, man. I'm such a casual when it comes to visiting our tourist spots around Queenstown. I've never heard of many of them. I still haven't been to Macetown. Oh.
Neither.
All right, so what's your number 3, bro?
My number 3 is actually... I had thought of it, but I think I'm going to change it actually, because you pretty much touched on one of my tips was find someone to practice with, and mine was actually just practice as often as you can.
Right.
So I want to change it to failing is the pathway to success. Yeah. So don't be shy to get out there and get it wrong or put yourself out there and, look like a bit of an idiot.
Yep.
Not on purpose, but accidentally. Because those experiences of you failing are going to, drive you to ensure that you're going to research better, you're going to be a bit more prepared, teach you that what you probably did do isn't the best or most appropriate way or whatever, But those memories that'll be there forever, especially if they're real bad failings. And I know we've both got examples of that. Really just going to drive you to go, I'm never going to do that again. And in order for me to succeed, I need to, do better research, or I need to reshape this or learn this, etc. So that's how you can really turn a negative into a positive.
Awesome. Do you have any examples that you can think of, bro?
I know you've got a really good one. I'm not sure if you're going to share it with us or not, but
yeah, I'll share it. Oh man, I'll try and keep it short though. So I was asked to do a whai kōrero on the up at Bruce Bay at the marae up there, and idiot me, I know it's important to make a connection between peoples when you do a whai kōrero. And their ancestry is the ancestry of the ancestor Maori, and Ngāti Porou also has a connection to our ancestor Maori. So I try to make a connection between the two peoples, and I talked about our connection to Maori, but I stupidly started talking about how Maori's waka is sitting on top of our maunga hekurangi, and of course their local kōrero is that's not where his waka is. So here I am at their marae, whakaeating their ancestor and their kōrero by talking about my own, being good old Ngāti blow as always. So and I meant it in the nicest way. The kaumātua that was there listening to my kōrero, he was just like rolling his eyes. And he started calling me Ngāti Tāhai.
Tāhai to steal e te iwi.
Yeah.
Like a thief.
Yeah. The old thief. Old Ngāti thief stealing his tipuna's waka. So that's just one. I've had too many, bro. Like, I remember the time, I can't remember who it was, but it's the first time I said, he kawhe koe? To the wrong person who just started cracking up laughing.
What, you calling me black?
Yeah. So he kawhe koe is a common, it's a common hapa or mistake of people who want to ask if you want a coffee. So he kawhe koe means, are you a coffee? It doesn't mean do you want a coffee. So once I'd embarrassed myself in that, and people stopped laughing, I learned never to say he kawhe koe again. So it's the lessons. It's every time I ask he kawhe mau, I'm taken back to the place where I screwed that up the first time. So failing is a great lesson, especially the embarrassment that you feel. Yeah, it always comes back to you. Well, it does for me. Every time I say certain phrases, I just think immediately of that time I screwed up majorly. Yeah.
And if we go back to my number 2 tip, don't let that shame be a barrier to you not progressing. Use that energy, use that whakamau, that shame, to then go, cool, I'm going to be better prepared for it. Like if you were in uni and you made a big mistake, you didn't prepare properly, so you just threw your assignment in there or whatever, you use those learnings and those memories to fuel your energy to learn more, do better, and get it right the next time. But sort of going back to your story from Ngāti Porou about, the tupuna Māori, and obviously on the west coast there, they having their story. That's quite common in Te Ao Māori e te iwi is, each own hapu, have their own unique story. So in one iwi or hapu, it could be said one way, and in another, it could be entirely different, where perhaps Maui was the enemy in one area rather than the hero in another. So that's quite common. So you'll hear a lot of people say, our story says, or, from our tipuna or, our hapu, this is our story.
Yeah, that's right. It's an important concept to learn, that every iwi and every hapu really has its own way of doing things.
Yep.
It's a common, like Māori know this, but non-Māori don't realise these things, and they, we have to correct, or we have to sort of enlighten non-Māori, a lot of non-Māori that we come across that that Māori don't always agree on things. Actually, we pretty much always disagree on things. So yeah, I mean, there's certain things we come together for, but for the smaller sort of nuanced things, we disagree over all sorts of things. And it's not really disagreement, it's just we do them differently. So our kawa can be different, our tikanga can be different. So our kōrero about the same tipuna can be different. Yeah.
Yep. Even whether he existed or not, you know, he could be an eponymous ancestor for one iwi or even hapu. And then even in another iwi or hapu, they may not even exist. So not even at the iwi level, but even at a hapu level. So the hapu just down the road could be 5-10 k's away, could have an entirely different story. Yeah. I mean, even fundamental things, stories that people think are fundamental, like Tāne going to get the 3 baskets of knowledge. Some iwi say that was tāwhaki. Some iwi say paia. So there's like so many different kōrero, even matariki, you know, the start of the new year. Down here in the Waipounamu, it's not matariki that heralds the new year, it's puaka, and I can let you speak to that too, bro, because you're from Te Taihoauru. And very similar, we, from what I heard from our hapu, we followed puanga. So puaka is the mita spoken down here in Ngaitahu or Kaitahu, and then back home, puanga is, how we pronounce that cluster of stars. So, good tips, bro. Any other tips there? Any other sort of different type of tips for learning? Yeah, another one I had was really trying to find some non-productive time in your day and potentially trying to make it productive. So an example is if you're driving to mahi, you're dropping the kids off in the waka, you're piling on the bus, that's a really good opportunity to, plug in Hemi Kelly's podcast or taringa, or even sitting with your tamariki on the bus and going, what's that colour? And they might go, whero or kōwhai. You could just be sitting in the car driving to town to pick up the supermarket, and you might, be pointing at things. So words you've learnt, you might be able to include your family to help you embed those new kupu or rerenga or whatever you're trying to embed and learn.
And so here's a classic, bro. I know so many people that do this, myself included. Well, I don't do it anymore, but I used to. I used to put translations of things and create stickers and stick into them around the house. That old chestnut. Did you guys ever do that?
Oh, I tried to do it. This was prior to my wahine being on her Te Reo Māori journey. Yeah. And she wasn't a big fan, so yeah. So I just had to look at it and say it like 60 times and then be like, cool.
Done.
Microwave, ngaruiti.
Yeah, that's a cool one, eh? Ngaruiti. Yeah.
And I think another really, really good way is through waiata. Yes. So learning waiata, just listening, has really, really helped me in my reo journey. Even if you're not at a level where you can't really understand what you're saying, but hearing those words, hearing that pronunciation, where it fits in the sentence, in the waiata, and even words that actually don't actually exist, but are slotted into waiata. And you've given me a really good example, which is the ooh baby piece, which is stuck on the end of a waiata.
The old air. Yeah, the classic air that you see at the end of words in waiata, eh? Yeah. I'm trying to think of. There's a couple in He Honore that we do that with. Yeah.
Yep. So waiata is a really good way to help you in your learning journey too. Even if it's tūtera or, pūrianei.
Pūrianei is a great one. Pūrianei is a really good one if you've gone past that absolute beginner stage and you're learning sentence patterns like rere hangu or passive sentences, because that waiata's got a lot of passive sentences in it that you can use as examples on how passives work. So, it's a great... That one's good. Whakarongo, another great Ngāti Porou waiata. That's another one with a lot of good good sentence patterns, passives in particular. It's got a lot of passives in there too. So, I use waiata all the time to when some of our group members who are at the lower level and they're trying to understand how to use certain sentence patterns and what examples to use, I always point them to waiata, because waiata have all of these language patterns in them, and it's those patterns that I use as examples and say, we use that pattern there, this is what it means, you substitute your words into the same structure and it changes the meaning into what you want it to be. So it's too hard to sort of give them language lessons on the fly, but if you can reference waiata, that makes it so much easier for them.
And, listening to the tune, it makes it easier to remember a waiata than it is to try and, remember a big block of, learned words and letteringa. So once you've got that song embedded, then you can start plucking out pieces you might identify. And really poetic too, a lot of our waiata.
See, I've moved now into learning a lot of Pānia Papa and Te Hekitu Leon Blake's waiata, because I've been writing quite a few recently, and they use that the older words, the kupu tāwhito in a lot of their waiata, and they use metaphoric language, kupu whakarite, which is like metaphors. They've got a lot of those in their waiata, so it elevates that whole thing of learning language to a whole new level, right? And and that's kind of where me and you are at now, bro? Is reaching for that more complicated stuff. Because we've already been helped with the easier waiata. Now it's time to go handi with the Pānia Papa ones. Yep.
And even looking at other tools such as karakia too, and that's really, up there. That's in the upper echelon of, Te Reo Māori is learning, understanding, and, trying even put some karakia yourself together.
I've started doing that myself now that Scotty Morrison said that's a thing. We did a wānanga and he said, taku is a thing where you what you want to mihi to, and natua you want to mihi to, you're allowed to sort of come up with the words on the fly. So, although it's hard because you got to keep to that whole cadence of reciting karakia as well. So it's hard to do that, but then think on the fly at the same time. So, man, karakia, far out. Karakia used to scare me, bro. Used to really scare me, Because I remember as a young fella that you should never recite karakia and break it, or pause. It's got to be consistent. You can't get a word wrong. So I just didn't want to do karakia for the longest time.
What about yourself, Any? They were all the key ones. I really, really like the one you said about finding someone to practice with. I think probably out of this entire list of tips we've come up with for those absolute beginners, finding someone is probably one of the key ones that I'll probably promote. And not only someone you can learn at your level, but if you can find someone, that's a little bit more advanced. So if you're an absolute beginner, maybe a beginner. If you're a beginner, someone that's an advanced beginner. can really provide some context and deeper understanding about what you're probably trying to learn.
Yeah, agree totally, bro. I just think back to the sessions that you and I would have at our noho marae. You know, everyone else would be in bed and would still be wānangoing up a storm in the wharekai, eh, bro? Man, we used to deep dive on some topics far out.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to more. Forward to more.
Yep, me too. So, yeah, for those of you out there, whānau, that don't know, that me, Taika, and another 15, I think there's 17 in total in the class, and another 15 of us from this Queenstown, Wanaka, Alexandra, Cromwell region, we're about to start our level 6 of Te Reo Māori, or Aupikitanga. So it's a Rumaki class, so it's going to, I'm really looking forward to the Rumaki element of it, but some of our lower members, you know, we got to really help them through that, because it might be a bit tricky for some of them. But just goes to show there's a real interest and focus on learning Te Reo Māori at quite a high level. You know, we're going into an immersive Rumaki environment, and there's 17 of us from this region that are all going into it. So, you know, there's this perception that no one can speak Māori down in Queenstown, but man, and I guess compared to places like, you know, Taranaki or Gisborne, then that's probably true, but we're certainly not as it's not as ignorant as people think down here.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree with that. But outside of that, you know, for a lot of our beginners out there, you know, kia kaha, kia maia, kia manawa nui, you know, and don't let anything get in your pathway to you learning either a little bit or, you know, reaching for, you know, te panekeretanga status.
Oosh. I wish that was still going.
Oh, me too. Me too. But, you know, something's better than nothing. Something is always better than nothing.
Yep.
So, any closing thoughts, Te Hika? You got any wakatoki you might want to share with us? If not, I've got one.
Yeah, I've got a couple, but
I think you'll probably bust out the same one. But yeah,
I'll let you go first, then, bro.
Well, this one I actually got off you, which I think is actually from the coast, which is hokia mai te reo, mai I te mata o te pene, ki te mata o te arero.
Yeah, that's a Wharehuia Milroy one, that one.
Yeah.
That's an awesome one. Yep. And I'm going to recite another one that I got from Wharehuia Milroy, which is mā te tōai, ka pakari ai te reo kōrero. And it's through repetition that you'll strengthen your spoken reo.
Yeah. Absolutely agree with that. And I think a lot of our listeners will too, because when you go on your noho and you're just hammering that kōrero 24/7 in that environment, it just comes and it sticks. So, yeah.
Work it.
Other than that, e te iwi, hey, it's good to be back up here. That's all we got time for. Hit us a like, subscribe, share with your friends, family, whoever, and we'll catch you next time on The Chew. Mā te wā.
Mā te wā.